Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Jim.
All right, Jim, so lots to cover here on the weekend. Let's start off with the Twins, who did win their first two games, but then got beat yesterday 11-0 by the Royals. Bailey Ober got hit for 8 earned runs, just an inning and a third. Your thoughts on the Twins yesterday and through 3 games?
Well, the first 2 games were pretty crisp, and they scored some clutch runs. They pitched really well. The bullpen was really good. Lopez was dominant on opening day. I think we talked about that last week. Ryan looked sharp. Second game, the bullpen did well. They got some clutch hits late. Correa on Thursday, Buxton on Saturday. Yesterday was just Bailey Ober was horrific, and it was hard. He didn't look like he had great stuff or great command. His pitches got a big part of the plate, but the Royals swung like they knew what was coming. It was almost one of those games that made me suspect that they have picked something up on Ober. Ober basically has had a great career against almost everybody other than the Royals. The Royals just trash him. So I almost wonder if they have picked up some tendency and knew it was coming, because they just sat on his changeups like they knew they were coming. They got around on his fastballs like they knew they were coming. It was pretty remarkable. Probably the worst start of his major league career. So it could be one thing, could be a combination of things, but it was not. It was a terrible outing for him. And Twins hitters obviously did nothing either. And on top of all that, it's very frustrating to watch a Major League Baseball game of any kind when the home plate umpire is as bad as the one was yesterday. Pitches 6 inches off the plate would be called strikes. It's just it's not fun to watch that.
Pitch tipping. How can you tell if that's happening, and is there a way to keep it from happening?
A lot of video. I knew a lot of players, and Paul Mauter's the best at it. Tom Kelly was great at it too. They could watch a pitcher say, okay, when he does this, the slider's coming. And sometimes it's very subtle. It's just the way they position their hand in the glove. Sometimes it's the way they adjust the glove. I mean, it can be very subtle. There's just so much video of everything everybody does these days that you don't even have to be an expert at it anymore. You can bear down and really look at the video and pick something up. So basically, teams need to self-scout. The Twins are going to have to go back and say, okay, what has he been doing that could have given the Royals a hint? Of course, the Twins might look at it and disagree with me and say, nope, he just threw bad pitches and they got crushed.
Is that illegal? Is it frowned upon?
No.
I mean, there's a lot of unwritten rules in baseball. That's completely fine?
It's gamesmanship, yeah. If you can figure out what somebody's going to throw, good for you.
Jim, the Timberwolves last night, they lose to the Bulls. 109-101. They were down 11 at the end of the first quarter, trailed by 10 at halftime. Did take a lead in the second half, but couldn't hold on to it. Your thoughts on that one?
The Bulls are a weird team. They have a losing record, and they have a terrible record in lopsided games. They have one of the NBA's best records in close games. They're kind of chippy, and they can shoot it. Alex Caruso made his first 6 3-pointers last night at a time when the Wolves were missing wide-open 3-pointers. And a lot of other things happened in the game, but that's the biggest factor in the game. If the other team outshoots you from the 3-point line, it's hard to make it up. I also thought Anthony Edwards, he's been in a bit of an offensive funk lately. He is not shooting very efficiently. And last night, he didn't seem to be himself. He kept on trying to drive into the teeth of the defense, looking for fouls, missing shots, not getting the foul calls, and then not getting back. So I don't know what was up with him. Obviously, he's been playing well overall, which is why they had won 4 straight. But he is not shooting it really well right now. He's not making great decisions offensively with his shooting, with his shot selection. And obviously, for them to be really good, he's got to be good at those things.
And what a shame, especially considering they beat Denver on Friday. They went into first place again, and then they lose this game, and now they're back into third.
Yep. Combination of human nature and the West being just really difficult. They're having a great season, and it is frustrating to watch them lose to get to a team at home that they should beat. It also happens all around the league almost every night.
All right, Jim, how about Karl Anthony Towns? Any update on his progress? Do we still think he'll be back for the beginning of the playoffs?
It's going to be somewhere in there. There's no real update, and there's really no way of knowing. It's going to depend on how his knee responds when he starts working out and trying to practice. Probably the best intelligence I've heard on it is he should be ready to play in the playoffs, but we don't know how much or how effectively. So they might have to get through a first series with him kind of feeling his way, and then hope that he can be an impact, that they can win the series under those circumstances, then he can be an impact player later. Last night's one of those games where they've played really well without him. Last night's one of those games where you're in an offensive funk, and it would have been really nice to have a guy who can just make 3-pointers for you.
Jim, speaking of injuries, going back to the Twins, Royce Lewis placed on the injured list with an oblique injury. Sounds like pretty severe, right? That he's going to miss more than a month?
Actually, it's a right knee quad. Quad knee. And, the good thing is it's not really a structural thing that's going to knock him out for half a year or a full year, which he's had before. It's going to take a while to rehab. So he's probably out at least a month and maybe longer. And it's devastating. It really is, because this team is already, they're already missing their all-star closer, their best left-handed reliever. Now they're missing maybe their best player, certainly their best young player, and the guy who seems to just have the greatest impact at bats on the team. Kepler hurt his knee in the first game, missed the next 2 games. This is a good team, but they can't. There's a critical mass of injuries that no team can survive. And we saw that in 2022. This was a good team in 2022, and they had so many injuries they couldn't function.
Jim, yesterday, the NCAA tournament regional finals on the men's side, we had Purdue and NC State come away with wins. For Purdue, first time in the Final Four for them since 1980. For NC State, first time since 1983. Your thoughts on those 2 wins?
Well, Purdue, it's kind of shocking. Purdue hasn't been there, I mean, they've had such a good program. They've had so many star players. They've had great coaches. And it's kind of crazy to me they have not been to the Final Four in that long. Give Edey credit. He played great yesterday against an undersized team. He took full advantage. He got to the rim. He drew fouls. He made free throws. He dominated the boards. And, he kind of made it look easy, frankly. I really think his size and his ability to use his size was the whole key.
Do his abilities translate to the NBA the way the game is played now?
There's kind of a big debate on that. Some people think he'll be just a good, solid NBA center who can. He's not going to be a superstar. He's not going to be Wembanyama or Jokic or Gobert, but he can play the game and he's going to be valuable. Other people say, God, he's just not athletic enough, not dynamic enough. I think he's going to. And we analyze college athletes as what they are now. I think he's probably going to have to improve his game. He's probably going to have to become a better outside shooter. And I'll go back and say Luka Garza was the best player in the country, and he can't get off the bench. It's just a different game. So I think he's going to be a functional NBA player. I think he's going to have to put a lot of work in his game to be more than that.
So the matchups on Saturday in the Final Four, you've got Purdue going up against NC State and Alabama and UConn. Your thoughts on these two? Is it seem inevitable we're going to see Purdue versus UConn?
I think UConn is by far the best team in the country. I think they're going to win the championship. I wouldn't be surprised if they win by double digits in both games. The question is, can Purdue do what they need to do against NC State, who's playing really well right now and has a big man with a lot of bulk who knows how to use it? How does he match up with Edey? We don't know. That's going to be really fascinating. He's probably a smoother athlete around the paint. He's not as tall. He's heavier. So, honestly, that game could be decided by who gets the calls.
Yeah, Donovan Klingham against Zach Edey. Could be a real interesting matchup if that's what we have.
Yes.
Women's Final Four is not quite set, but that will be determined tonight. The big matchup is LSU versus Iowa tonight. Then, of course, Paige Becker's Minnesota native playing for UConn against USC. Your thoughts on the two matchups tonight?
I wrote about it today. I think tonight's women's game are going to be better than the men's Final Four. And I hope the women's games over the weekend were better than the men's games. You have Iowa against LSU, rematch the title game. Caitlin Clark trying to win a championship in her last run. Angel Reese and LSU defending their championship and making everybody angry along the way. Then you've Paige Beckers, who's playing great, 6 straight games of 20 points or more, and UConn going up against UC and Juju Watkins, who scored 30 in her last game to advance. This is spectacular stuff. The women's games have been just great.
Do you think that we'll see Who do you like in the Iowa LSU game?
I just think LSU. Caitlin Clark is the best player ever. I just think LSU is athletic and physical, and they play with an edge, and they're not going to stop Caitlin Clark, but they have the ability to make her shots tougher. I just like LSU.
One last one.
UConn. Yeah, go ahead. I like UConn. I think Paige is playing great right now.
One last one. Gopher women's basketball is playing Wyoming in the WNIT tonight, starting at 7:30. Your thoughts on this opportunity for the Gophers with, having Heyer back, having Mara Braun back? I mean, they're playing good ball right now.
They are, but Braun tweaked her foot, isn't going to play, so that kind of takes a lot of the fun out of this one. They've just played horribly when Braun hasn't been available to them. So it's an opportunity for other players to step forward and maybe prepare for next year, but it's not going to be as much fun as it would have been with Mara playing.
All right. What do you got in your podcast, Jim?
Pretty much full slate up. I will highly recommend the John Krasinski show on the Timberwolves ownership situation. It's going to get ugly. And there are a lot of fascinating details to this one, and both sides seem to have something of a case. So I would check that out. Chin Music, just on where the Twins are, heading into the season here with Roy Smalley and Lavelle Neal, and everything's at TalkNorth.com or on your favorite podcast app.
All right, Jim, thanks. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thanks, Jay.
It's Jim Souhan, Star Tribune sports columnist, joining us every weekday morning at this time. Follow him on Twitter at SouhanStrib. Check out his latest column at the Star Tribune or his podcast at TalkNorth.com. I can tell you that the WJON Win Cash contest starts today. First code word at 8:10. We'll have 10 code words, or codes. It's not words. They're all numbers. So 10 codes per day, 1 per hour starting at 8:10 this morning. Chance for you to win $30,000. We also have 10 $100 award winners each day. Thanks to our sponsors of WJON Win Cash, Burst Travel, Red's Transfer and Storage Moving Company, SB Restoration at Scotty's Exteriors, Opats Metals and Roll-Offs, First National Bank of Malacca, Total Control Tree Service, Gilk Plumbing and Heating and Air Conditioning, and Simpson & Sons Tree Service. News from ABC next on WJON.